Steph Curry went on Matt Barnes and Stephen Jackson's podcast, All the Smoke, and said he wanted to get drafted by the Knicks. I wanted to go to New York and thought I was going to New York. What's up, Pablo?
This is why I can't do this. This is why I root for the Sixers now, because the Knicks have a cosmic joke that they choose to perpetuate. And guess what? I'm not playing along anymore, man. I'm not.
Yeah, how's that Sixers thing working out for you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Second round of the playoffs last year, a bounce away from beating the NBA champions.
Remember when you guys said going to the second round year after year wasn't good enough, and so you had to embarrass yourselves to try to do better?
Up first is Zion Williamson, whose debut felt like a whole news cycle in 18 minutes. For the first 14 minutes and 30 seconds, he got clowned for looking slow and overweight and tentative. But over the last 3 minutes and 30 seconds, Zion scored 17 straight and looked lightning quick and merely big-boned and super aggressive. New Orleans lost its mind as Zion went 4 for 4 from 3. And then lost its mind again as Zion got benched on a minutes restriction as the Spurs pulled away. So, Bo, did Zion live up to the hype last night to you?
Scored 22 points in 18 minutes. That would answer the question. The people that were clowning were idiots. There's no other way around it. That was just like, of course, the dude coming off of a knee injury who hasn't played in an NBA game, maybe he looks to be a little bit out of shape. That's not terribly surprising. Now, what is terrifying for the rest of the league about this is that's 22 points in 18 minutes with no dunks. That 4 for 4 for 3. We didn't know if that dude could shoot from college three-point range. We still don't know how well he can shoot from NBA 3, but I ask you this. If he can shoot 35% from 3 in the NBA, that's all we're saying is 35, which is a little bit above average. If he can do that, what is stopping him from being quite possibly the greatest player we have ever seen?
Yeah, he is a variant on the problem that Giannis Antetokounmpo represents. He can do everything. If you add the three-point shot, he can do everything on the floor. And so when it comes to the hype, what was promised? What did this network promise everybody? We promised, the royal we, that this guy must be seen. You have to watch him. You have to watch every second of him. And this game, as much as it was abbreviated at the end, and as much as I understand why people are mad that the medical staff intervened and said, you got to take this guy out of here, the point is, the next game he plays is must watch, and it kind of feels like every game subsequent to that is too.
Yeah, but see, there's another level into the way he played, because the idea that it could go this well without the stuff that we really signed up for is interesting. He took a pass in the first quarter on the block, got the ball, and hit Brandon Ingram cutting to the basket, where it's like, oh, wait a minute. So we're doing these other things too, right? The possibility on this. And I got to admit, it's a little easy to buy into the hype now that he's not wearing Duke blue. I find myself having far fewer reservations about saying how good it is that he could possibly be. But no, I'm all the way in on this now, and everybody else should be too.
Yes, and in the first 15 minutes when the criticism came and people were clowning him for being too fat, allegedly, and by the way, Zion, stay thick. I want you to do that. He was excellent, man. Even in the limited opportunities that he showed, he was skying for rebounds. Okay, the legs still work. The vision, the court vision, and the passing ability. When people talk about him as a potential point center, a sort of futuristic version of a guy who can run an offense from the least likely position to do it on the court, he has the skill set.
Yeah, although I will say, it seems like a gigantic waste to turn that guy into a point center. It'll be great if he can pass the ball once he's got it. Everybody else's job needs to be figured out how to get him the ball, not vice versa. Now, Silvio De Sousa, the Kansas reserve, dude with the chair over his head, he was suspended Wednesday for 12 games by the Big 12. Another Jayhawk and 2 players in Kansas State were suspended for their roles in Tuesday's brawl at Allen Fieldhouse. De Sousa tweeted a lengthy apology after he was disciplined. Quote, "There's no excuse for my behavior," De Sousa said, "and I can't justify the unreasonable choices I made yesterday on the court." Pablo, is this good enough for you?
This is more than good enough for me. The apology on the first level had like 9 or so paragraphs I just counted there, and he used words like embarrassed and destroyed. Those seem like lawyered up words, but those are the words you want to use when you're trying to say, I could not be more contrite than I am right now. So, I get it on that sense. But in terms of did the punishment meet the crime, yeah, sure. Like, this was not a malice at the palace kind of an incident. This was gross. But even the chair he held up was like one of those weird folding stools. Like, all of this kind of felt exaggerated from the start.
It wasn't even gross to me. I don't even like in that level of term, like gross. Like, I wasn't disgusted by this. It didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth. It was a fight, right? 12-game suspension. I mean, it seems about right. Once again, you can't take the chair over his head. But I hated the apology. I absolutely hated it. I thought it was... I thought it was absolutely appropriate for him to say that he was wrong and there was no justification for his actions. But everything after that was about gratitude. I appreciate so much everything that everybody has done for me. I know that all this stuff, you don't owe anybody that stuff. You want to apologize for doing that? That's cool. If you talk about that being lawyered up, that wasn't lawyered up. That was PR'd up. That was, in times like these, the people want to know that you are under control and you appreciate everything that we done did for you. Ain't nobody got this dude over here for Angola to do him no favors. They got him there to do favors for Kansas, and for him to come after the fact and explain his gratitude in this moment rather than simply his contrition is over the top.
And that's all fair, but keep in mind who the audience is, right?
I know. Here's the thing. I know who the audience is, and that's why I hate it. I don't care whether or not this plays well with the people that we're talking to. I think it's awful for the fact that we're even going to make them do it in the first place.
I agree with you on that fundamental level of principle. It's a corrupt business in which he has been a character arguably mistreated, manipulated, benefited off of without any recompense to him. But the point is, he is also the guy, Bo, who was at the center of that FBI kind of scandal, right? With the Gasnola dude and all of the payments that were illicit. His ability to stand up on the table and say, I deserve better, it's been a tough year for him. Well, let's get to Eli Manning. His retirement announcement comes tomorrow, but his football eulogy is today. Over 16 years, Eli ranks 7th all-time in passing yards and passing touchdowns, and he is a champion twice over and a Super Bowl MVP twice over. But he also never made an all-pro team. He threw more picks than all but 11 quarterbacks ever, and his team's regular season record sits at a perfectly mediocre 117 and 117. So the debate rages, obviously, about the Hall of Fame, but Bo, how do you choose to remember Eli today?
I mean, I don't know how much I'm going to remember him personally because I didn't find him that memorable. But this is what I think is interesting about him, and this is where I think the discussion should stay. He is basically, what if Derek Jeter wasn't very cool, right? Like, can you be the leader of a New York team, the face of a franchise, without stumbling into any measure of controversy? That is what he has managed to do. Everybody that seems to have worked with him and been around him, they all seem to like him very, very much. And he means something very important for the New York Giants. He was there for those 2 Super Bowls. He was the MVP for those 2 Super Bowls. And he should be in their Ring of Honor, their Hall of Fame, however it is that he does it, because there's something particularly special about having a guy who played for one team, and he is yours. It doesn't matter if the rest of us don't understand what a big deal he is. He is yours. Love him to death within that context.
And I do feel like he is mine. And one of the people, by the way, that you mentioned who love him is my dad's cousin, my Tita Vicky, because she worked as the nanny to Eli Manning's kids for years, man. And so sources close to my Tita Vicky say that he's an excellent dude. And what does that mean? Well, it means something superficial to me, of course, but to the larger point, he is really good at being famous. He's really good in existing in a marketplace, in a PR environment that eats its young. We see quarterbacks all the time kind of go nuts, surrounded by all of those lights. Eli flourished. And when you go to the Super Bowl stuff, to me, how much do we care about Super Bowls? Well, I've been raised to think that they matter a lot. And so who are the guys who have 2 Super Bowl MVPs? Bart Starr, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Terry Bradshaw. He's the 5th guy. It's just rarefied company, Bomani. Rarefied in spite of everything else that seems mediocre.
Ring of Honor for the New York Giants. I am all about focusing on the positive. I do not want to spend this time talking about why Eli Manning was not in the moment that we want to encapsulate his career.
15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in the 2 playoff runs. In those moments when it matters, he was excellent.
So tell me this, how come there wasn't a single damn moment that mattered outside of those seasons? How come they did not win a single playoff game in any other season than those 2? Were there no other times that ever mattered from 2011 to now? Were there did nothing? What mattered then?
Football's a hard sport.
Did anything matter then?
Football's a hard sport.
So there was no mattering to get to. There was no mattering. There was no mattering. What happened after? There was no mattering to get to a Super Bowl after that. You guys are full of it, and you know it coming up next because you see Bill Belichick leaving the Patriots.
How do you judge someone? Not by what they say, by what they do. We're a nation of doers. What's Mike Bloomberg about? Doing things. A middle-class kid worked his way through college. An entrepreneur, Bloomberg built a global news and information business from scratch. Mayor of a diverse, progressive city, Mike Bloomberg rebuilt after 9/11, creating nearly 500,000 jobs, improving health care and public schools. Now he's running for president, and Mike's the change we need. From chaos to steady leadership, from lies to someone who believes in facts and data, from divisiveness to someone who builds teams, nurtures good ideas, and holds himself accountable for results. Mike Bloomberg knows how to lead, to build, to deliver, to do. He'll win and unite this country. Mike will get things done.
I'm Mike Bloomberg, candidate for president, and I approve this message because we need to deliver on the promise of the American dream. Paid for by Mike Bloomberg 2020.
High Noon is beamed to you from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17.
Give me your energy and put it in my veins. First topic, Dolphins. Miami has 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks in this year's draft, as well as 2 first-round picks in 2021. You in on the Dolphins giving up a bounty of picks to get Joe Burrow.
I am out on this, although I find it hilarious that Ryan Fitzpatrick is so good that the Dolphins find themselves contemplating this question. I don't think the price the Bengals are going to ask for is going to be fair. Adam Schefter has been sitting around this studio saying, Bengals will never trade the number 1 pick. They want Joe Burrow, which makes me think they're going to ask for way too much.
Right, but would you give up a bounty of picks? We don't know what the particular bounty of picks is. The question is, would you give up a bunch of those picks in order to get the quarterback? And is Joe Burrow a guy that you could win with while the contract's cheap? If he is, then you absolutely do this. I'm not exactly sure what package it is that you say no to in the name of getting a guy if you are sure that he is going to be your franchise quarterback.
I'm not sure he's that guy, though. Part of me thinks that Tua, plus the other stuff they can keep, that might be close.
The dude with the bad wheel?
That guy. Next topic, the Patriots. Max Kellerman said on First Take that if Tom Brady stays with the Pats next year, he thinks Bill Belichick may leave. So you in with him on that?
Hell no. They ain't driving Bill Belichick out of that job. What else Bill Belichick gonna do? Right? As I look around right now, there ain't no coach job openings. I'd fire my coach if Belichick suddenly became available. What Belichick gonna do? Just to go somewhere and start playing shuffleboard? We gonna see him turning up on people's Instagram and Hawaiian shirts? That ain't about to happen.
That's right. He's gonna go do the Mike McCarthy thing where he starts playing Dungeons and Dragons football and becomes a fake GM, basically winning a fake league. That said, this is not happening because Bill Belichick is too valuable. Bob Kraft, as much as he says all the right things about Tom Brady publicly, they're blood relatives, they love each other, all that stuff, he has to know that at the end of the day, Belichick's the reason why they're here.
Right, but do you think Belichick would walk? We know Kraft's not going to fire him.
I don't think he'd walk.
Up next, Jimmy Butler. Dwayne Wade had this to say about Butler, quote, I always thought Jimmy's personality and his crazy is perfect for Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra's crazy. You in with him on that?
I am in with him on this because the type of crazy is peculiar, right? Dion Waiters, kind of crazy, not their type, pretty clear about that. But what Jimmy Butler is hyper-competitive and ruthless. Pat Riley's the guy who would fine his players for helping guys up off the floor after a hard foul. That kind of seems like Jimmy Butler's whole deal.
No, this was a perfect fit from even before he got there. I was saying this. The thing about Jimmy is you not going to outwork him, and he is demanding of other people in that same way, which is basically the Pat Riley template, right? Like Pat Riley's offering guys, come to the Heat, you'll be in the best shape you've ever been in. And the reason is nobody's going to work you like this. Jimmy works himself. I think there's a similarity here to Nick Saban going to Alabama. That job consumes every coach except for the one whose standard is even higher for himself than Alabama's is for him.
And now, Karl Anthony Towns. Timberwolves president of basketball operations, Gerson Rosas, had this to say about Towns, quote, Karl Anthony Towns is as untouchable as they come, end quote. So you in with him on that?
Nah, not really. I mean, I understand why you say this sort of thing, even if you wanted to make it possible that somebody could offer to trade for him. Maybe you do that. But I have not seen enough from Karl Towns thus far in his career to say under no circumstance do I want anybody on my team more than I want him. I will give you a chance to convince me.
I will give someone a chance to convince me, but I don't think I'm going to be convinced. In the NBA, Bo, 4 quarters very rarely make $1. And Karl Anthony Towns, for all of these struggles he's had, right, mostly having to do with toughness, especially in the postseason, the skill set that he brings in which he can do pretty much everything, that is so rare. And if you're the Timberwolves, you pray for a guy like that to fall into your lap somehow. I don't know if they can realistically pray for one other one.
Yeah, but they had one of them that's somewhat similar fall in their lap, and that was Kevin Love. And our thought with Kevin Love was he's doing this on this team right here, but man, let's see what happens when we get him on a better team. When you got him on a better one, you saw he was like the 3rd best guy on that kind of team. If Towns is the guy that you describe, I feel like they should be a little better even in spite of what's around him. Finally, Trae Young. Trader Barge averaging 29 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds, and he was the top vote getter among Eastern Conference guards after the third round of fan voting was released. You in on Young being an all-star, even though the Hawks have only 11 wins?
I am all the way in on this because look at the videos we are showing people right now. This is a fan voting-driven contest. Tom Haberstroh raised a good point about this. We're trying to watch a pickup game. We're not really giving away like honors and honorifics. I want to watch Trae Young play basketball, so put him in.
But separate from that, I think whether I want to see him in the game is one discussion. Whether I think he's an all-star is a different one. And